Russia and China are close, but did Putin cross the line by threatening to use nukes? Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Well, it's finally happened. Despite China's show of support for Russia, even as the invasion of Ukraine lumbers on, and despite the fact that Xi Jinping has given Putin a best friend medal, Putin has finally gone too far. He's repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine, and that's too much even for the Chinese Communist Party. Last week, China's President Xi Jinping met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. And during the meeting, Xi rebuked Russia's nuclear threats in Ukraine, warned Putin not to use nuclear arms, and now Putin is much more cautious after a stern dressing down from China's Xi. According to Politico, Chinese leader Xi Jinping made his most direct criticism yet of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine, warning the Russian president not to resort to nuclear weapons. Wow. So what was this stern message and direct criticism? According to Chinese state-run media, Xi Jinping said, the international community should also oppose the threat or use of nuclear weapons, advocate that nuclear weapons cannot be used, and that nuclear wars must not be fought, and prevent a nuclear crisis in Eurasia. Wait, that's it? He doesn't even mention Putin, or Russia, or Ukraine. It's just a vague nuclear war is bad. Not exactly a revolutionary statement. As one China analyst told the Wall Street Journal, opposing the use of nuclear weapons and threats is a low-hanging fruit and low-cost statement to achieve international approval. That's because Xi Jinping knows saying something even as vague and non-committal as that will earn him international headlines like this. Meanwhile, China continues to help Russia get around international sanctions. Just last week, China said it would continue to deepen its ties to Russia. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, China is not willing or even able to influence the Kremlin. The brutal reality is, if Putin gets to the point where he is willing to use nuclear weapons, Beijing's leverage over him is close to zero. So why did Xi even make his vague statement about nuclear war? Well, it wasn't out of the goodness of his own heart. I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. So why did President Xi Jinping make his anti-nuclear statements? Well, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been both a blessing and a curse for the Communist Party. Xi's statements about nuclear war is a great example. The problem with the way international media is reporting on it is that it helps Chinese propaganda. China has been trying to position itself as a mediator between Russia and the West. That's what China did with North Korea, too. Basically, that makes the West feel like they need China's help, so we should probably not do anything to make China mad, right? And look at how well that strategy worked with North Korea. Putting pressure on Russia should not come at the expense of putting pressure on China. The other reason Russia's invasion of Ukraine has helped the Chinese Communist Party is that it's shown them what strategies and tactics the West will use against an authoritarian regime invading another country. Since the Communist Party is very open about the fact that it plans to invade Taiwan, this is valuable information. And the party has already started to prepare. China has begun insulating itself from Western sanctions, which was a major weapon used against Russia. But overall, I don't think the Chinese Communist Party is happy about Russia's invasion, or at least how it played out. I'm sure the party would have loved to have seen Russia waltz in and quickly take Ukraine with little to no response from the West. That would have been a great sign for its coming invasion of Taiwan. Instead, Russia has struggled to take Ukraine, showing the power of a highly motivated resistance against a much larger, better equipped military. On top of that, it's made the West much more aware of the realities of dealing with an aggressive authoritarian regime. Some are calling it the death of globalization. The idea that democracies and authoritarian regimes can just get along and set aside their differences in the name of making money has kind of blown up, although some people are constantly trying to revive it. But more important, Russia's actions get everyone linking Ukraine and Taiwan in their minds. It's clear China's threats about invading Taiwan aren't just empty threats. It's a very real and present danger. And the West is developing ways to respond. And I think that's what's really behind Xi's nuclear statements. I think the Chinese Communist Party wanted to be the first to threaten to use nuclear weapons against Taiwan, instead of watching Putin jump the gun in Ukraine. China has been rapidly building up its nuclear weapons. The head of U.S. Strategic Command, which oversees the U.S. nuclear weapons program, warned that China is developing nuclear weapons much faster than the U.S. and called the issue a near-term problem, and that China is the only competitor with both the intent and increasingly the capability to systematically challenge the United States across the board, militarily, economically, technologically, diplomatically. Notice he didn't say Russia. So what happens if Putin uses nukes in Ukraine? What if he only uses smaller tactical nukes? Should the response be as strong? These are all questions China would much rather the West be grappling with during an invasion of Taiwan. But Russia is forcing the West to develop these responses now. So when China does invade Taiwan, the West will be better prepared. And China Uncensored would not be possible without support from viewers like you, either by liking and subscribing, sharing the show with friends and family, buying an awesome t-shirt on chinauncensored.tv/merchandise, or through direct support on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Those are the fans I call the China Uncensored 50-cent Army, who join us in the fight against the Chinese Communist Party. As a thank you to them, I respond to their questions or comments. Today's question comes from Ian Pendleton. How deeply connected are the economies of Taiwan and mainland China? The CCP has been willing to use economic warfare to punish Taiwan in the past, so the more interconnected their economies are, the worse things are going to get for Taiwan. Now, this is a very interesting question, and it also ties into Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Taiwan is also watching and learning. China is Taiwan's largest trading partner. Talk about an abusive relationship. And already the Chinese regime has used economic pressure against it. China has in the past banned Taiwanese fruit imports to pressure the country. Taiwan's dependence on China is both a weakness and a strength. To deal with the weakness, Taiwan has been strategically cutting economic ties. However, according to a Taiwanese finance minister, the fact that the two economies are so entwined might actually protect Taiwan. The electronics industries in both economies are highly dependent on each other, and Taiwan is China's biggest source of imported integrated circuits. However, that could be wishful thinking. For one, it assumes the Chinese Communist Party is a rational government the way most other governments are. It is not. The zero-COVID policy has proven the Chinese regime is more than willing to blow up its own economy for political reasons. It also assumes Xi Jinping is getting good information from his aides. Xi Jinping has been known to be a little cranky when someone tells him something he doesn't like. So would an official really be like, we just don't have the capability to invade Taiwan right now? It could be devastating, we would lose in the end. Or would they say, yes, we are ready, we are strong, and my gosh, have you lost weight? You look amazing. At the end of the day, the Chinese Communist Party maintains its rule over China and continues to threaten the world because it has the money to do so. If there were a mass movement to economically decouple from China, the Chinese Communist Party wouldn't last long. Thanks again for your question and your support, Ian. And thank you for watching. You can support China Uncensored by going to patreon.com/China Uncensored and contributing $1 or more per episode. As one of the perks, you can ask me questions that I'll answer on the show. Or we have fantastic merch for sale over at chinauncensored.tv/merchandise. The links are below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.